Welcome back to the competition studio. I'm Jared Dunn, and I'm joined in the studio today by Paweł Kapuła.
Hello, good morning.
Conductor of the semifinals. We're here in the Pomeranian Philharmonic. You may have noticed the background's a little bit different. Right above us is the main concert hall where the semifinalists are playing 45-minute recitals followed by Mozart concertos with Maestro Kapuła and a chamber orchestra here from Bydgoszcz. Before we talk to Paweł about conducting and working with Mozart concertos, I'd love you to hear a few moments from one of our semifinal performances this morning. This is going to be Piotr Pawlak from Poland playing Ravel's Pavane pour un enfant défunt. So in the finals, the competitors are playing recitals followed by a Mozart concerto, and maybe we can get started with our discussion now about what it's like to work with new soloists and what it's like to conduct Mozart concertos.
Well, to begin with, conducting Mozart concerto is always a very demanding task for a conductor because it's really, really difficult. First of all, to get all the nice colors and also to get the orchestra playing in a perfectly technical way. So that's very difficult. But then when a soloist comes, it only gets more and more exciting. Here at the competition, we have 10 different pianists. We have 5 different piano concerti. So with each piece, there are so many possibilities to discover something new, and each of the pianists gives us, the orchestra and also me, something, new qualities. So this is very exciting to do it, actually.
Is this your first piano competition?
Yes, that's my first piano competition. Yeah.
So the rehearsals were yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was probably quite a limited amount of time you had with each pianist.
Yes, we only had 40 minutes for each pianist.
And the concertos last approximately
half an hour.
Half an hour.
Yeah.
So what do you get done in 40 minutes?
Well, I think what we did was the general picture. Of course, we are there for the soloists, so we are absolutely all the time with them, and well, they are being judged, not us, so we have to help them.
So that's easier.
That's easier, and we have to make this most friendly environment for them to have the best performance during this competition, and we will do it. We are trying to do this. But you're right, the amount of time is so much limited that there are only some very subtle details we can work on.
Yeah.
And I think the general picture is what counts the most.
And even though there's such a small amount of time, you have to get through 10 concertos in one day. Is that true? So yesterday you rehearsed with all 10 semifinalists.
Yes.
Was it tiring?
It was very tiring.
Right.
So we started at 10 and we finished at 8. And in the evening I was already like, really, this is something, yeah. And it was very also emotionally tiring because I think that conducting and playing piano, singing, or playing in an orchestra, it's something that you can't do really mechanically. Well,
right.
if you do, it's better to finish off and take up another job.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I was really emotionally tired thinking about every different rendition and interpretation of that concerto, and this is also something to remember for me today and also tomorrow. Because if we repeat 3 or 4 piano concerti in a row, I have to kind of be able to get back to the soloist tempo, to the soloist character, to the cadenza he or she plays.
Wow, true. And you have to remember the ending very specifically, right?
Yes, so it's going to be fun.
And the orchestra, of course, it's Kapela Bydgoszcz.
Yes.
They're speaking mostly in Polish, I assume, but the competitors, not everyone speaks Polish.
No, I was speaking English with them, and there were 2 competitors that were speaking perfect Polish. One from Bulgaria and the other one from Ukraine. Yeah, but the orchestra, the chamber orchestra of the Pomeranian Philharmonic, they have played a lot of classical music, also Mozart concerti. So they are really attentive, really supportive, and I think they kind of create this very friendly atmosphere for the competitors to work with us.
How do you, I'm curious, when you're trying to remember the different interpretations of sometimes the same concerto, how do you remember this? You're taking notes in your score, or you have different score for every performance?
No, I have one score.
Okay.
And I just rely on my memory, which is not that bad, I think so. Every conductor needs to work on that and kind of, always work out your memory in order to keep it, fit and be able to remember many things. So, but also what really helped me yesterday was the very logical way of playing by all of these pianists. So even though you meet someone for the first time, you hear him or her play for the first time, it's something completely new, but then you realize so quickly how smoothly it can go and how logically they play, so you can kind of you anticipate and you can foresee what will happen in the music. So it's also very and they are all really good pianists, so really helps.
You've of course conducted other than Mozart concertos. You've done other piano concertos before. What's the difference between, for example, Tchaikovsky or Rachmaninoff or Brahms and Mozart?
Well, all of the post-romantic concertos taken from the second half of the 19th century, it has a little more of an orchestra work for a conductor to take care of. That's the first thing. Of course, these concertos are much more symphonic in their texture and in their instrumentation. So this is something also for a conductor to show off and make something more than in the Mozart concerti. Of course, here we have a lot of work to do as well, but for me, Mozart or Haydn, it's all about being perfect in every sense of having, playing together, having equal and one articulation, trying to find perfect dynamics so that the Mozartian forte will be different from the one you can find in Brahms or Tchaikovsky. So these are also basic elements of music. Of course, it's already a lot, but it's enough if you do it, and then it's phrasing, of course. But for example, during a competition, we didn't have that much time to care about every little bar. So like I said, but with the big concertos, it's like, I think it gives a little bit more freedom for a conductor to also propose his or her interpretation. It's a little bit more, well, I wouldn't say it's a little bit more speaking with the pianist with those concertos, because that's also what happens with Mozart, but in Mozart you didn't have that much, for example, tempo changes.
Right.
And so on. So it's, but there are so it's so all different that it's really hard to compare it. Yeah.
When you're working with a totally new soloist, and you did yesterday, right? They're all new to you completely. Is there a moment in the first time you're playing that first phrase in the first movement, is there a moment where you understand, I see what this pianist wants to do, because you've heard something very specific in their playing?
Yes, it happens, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is it usually that makes you understand? Is it phrasing, sound, dynamics?
It's for me, it's basically phrasing and also the pause they have. It's not about tempo, but the energy in between the notes they have while playing. So you can very easily and very quickly realize what the next phrase or what the next bar will bring to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I have a question, because all the way through my studies, my teacher was telling me, remember when you play concertos to get used to looking over to your left, because the conductor wants to be making contact with you often. Do you like it when pianists are making contact with you and not staring at the keyboard all the time?
Yes. Well,
why?
Because it's much easier to talk while because making music is just talking. So when sometimes we didn't even need to give ourselves any signs. It's just sometimes, looking at the face or something, and you already know. So that's the first thing. I do this thing that when I stand and conduct, I'm a little bit more on the pianist side. So I always do it to look at his hands. So I'm helping in that way, that he or she doesn't always need to, bring the head up, and I'm just following, and it's very easy sometimes to see what the tempo or the auftakt will be just by looking at the hands when he plays. So that's
really.
It helps me, and I think it helps them as well.
Do they ever surprise you though? Like their hand is going down, and then there's suddenly a pause, and you don't get the auftakt.
Yes, sometimes it happens, but there are. I think I'm a very easy conductor to work with, because I love playing with soloists. So I'm
really?
Always on their side.
Yeah.
And I will never tell a soloist, okay, I don't like your tempo, do it my way, because I think I and the orchestra, we are there to help them. So that's our main task. And of course, there are some places that the soloist needs to be with me. So like we end or we start, and there's a whole chord in the orchestra, and it just needs to be together. And 100 people or 50 people or even 20 people can't compare to one who can look at us and help us here. But generally, well, he or she's the boss.
Is there a concerto you're working on now with the competitors that you really have a special love for from the Mozart concertos? Or do you love them all?
I have, but I won't answer this question, because I today and tomorrow I have to love every concerto equally. So,
That was the right answer.
Yeah. But of course I do have,
And can you feel the competitors' stress when they're playing?
It's hard to answer, because yesterday it was just a rehearsal.
Yeah.
So the atmosphere was quite laid back. It was all nice, and I think they were at ease.
Yeah.
Most.
Because usually in competitions we feel stress that we think of as much more intensive than the stress of a concert. Because at a concert, it's nice, the public is here to hear me play, it's a good feeling. But competitions more and more are trying to create the experience of a concert. Like a real concert.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's what you're trying to give them as well, like support and...
Exactly, yeah. Well, we'll see how it will be today and tomorrow. But judging or given by yesterday, it was okay, I think so. Yeah.
Have you yourself done competitions as a conductor?
Only one, in Croatia, in Zagreb. It was in 2018 or 19.
Just before... pandemic.
It was before pandemic, and it was a great experience. I met some good people, and I did a lot of repertoire for that. But it just wasn't the right time for me.
Is it the same in conducting competitions as in piano competitions? They prepare a lot of solo stuff. What do you have to prepare for a conductor competition?
It depends on the competition, but usually if there are 4 or 5 stages of a competition...
5?
Yeah, there are some competitions like that. So you have a lot of different repertoires. Like, for example, you can have symphony repertoire, opera, in Besançon there is also oratorio, I think. You can have
Really?
opera repertoire, concerto, of course, repertoire. So a lot of different fields of interest for a conductor to prepare for a competition, yeah, and a lot of different styles. So that's, of course, it's difficult for every musician, I think, but for a conductor especially, because we use our hands to create or to, you know, kind of inspire the music. So if you have to conduct Mozart and then the next hour you have to do Wagner, you have to somehow change completely. You can't do it the same way, or you can, but the result or what you will hear played by the orchestra, it might be, you know. Yeah.
Is it the same then in the world of conducting? I mean, this is a very general question, but do conductors tend to go to competitions as much as pianists do? I mean, piano competitions are a big thing in piano education. Really?
Yes,
It's
there
very
are 3-4 really big conducting competitions.
Really? Where are they? What are they?
Like the one is Malco in Denmark. The other is, of course, the Mahler competition in Bamberg,
yeah, I think
won
I've
by
heard of
Duda.
this. Right.
The first winner of that. Besançon. Donatella Flick in London, and they are all quite prestigious. I think Malco, the last time Malco was the most popular because they took only 20 conductors, if my mind serves me right, and there were like 600 of applications. It's a little bit easier with piano competitions because I think that for the first stage there are like 100 pianists, and then you come, you present yourself, okay, and then you see. And with us, you just have to send your videos and your CV, letters of recommendations. So they take 20 and 500, you know.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, in the semifinals of a competition like this, where they're going to have to play a recital with a commissioned work and then a piano concerto, the competitors are required to adapt to new situations. When you first rehearse with somebody and you have only 40 minutes to get to know them, what do you do to work with them? What kind of conversations do you have to have, or questions you have to ask, or they're asking you, so you can adapt to each other?
We had so little time yesterday that it was just asking about really basic things like the ending of cadenzas, the general tempi, the character generally given,
like the mood of the whole piece.
Yes, the general
really
mood. Yeah, but
okay.
it was, but we played a concerto and then we had like 5 or 10 minutes just to do other things. So during the rehearsal, I had to remember what was to be adjusted. The pianists were, I think they were so excited about the semifinals that they didn't, talk much during that.
Right.
But I think it was okay because it's always better to play twice instead of talking about something
Definitely.
just theoretically. And the second time we repeated something, it was much better. We could have tell it was very much improved.
What changes? I mean, performers, we all know what changes the second time, but perhaps for people who've never played with an orchestra, what changes the second time you get to play something? Why is it better?
It's better because, first of all, everyone has already heard what had happened. So everyone has the picture now. We all know the tempi, we all know the phrasing. So the second time is like, telling something you already heard about, maybe in the past, but now it's just, it gets more clear.
Right.
And it's somehow very difficult to explain, but it's just like that. It's like maybe everybody is a little bit insecure the first time, and the second time it's suddenly, without speaking a word, it's like, wow.
They just connect in the music.
We've done it. Yeah. Exactly.
Is there, so you had only 40 minutes yesterday, but if you could have the ideal amount of rehearsal time with a soloist, how much would you want to spend with them?
Well, 2 hours.
2 hours.
Per concerto.
And that's also for concerts too?
No, for concert you have a little bit more time, I think, because you, for example, if you have a if you have a concert on Friday, you usually start with the soloist on Thursday. So there's one big rehearsal for you, 1 hour or 2 hours, and then you also have this dress rehearsal on Friday. So yeah, but it's impossible, of course, because half of the semi-finalists will be playing with a big orchestra in a few days. So it's also, crowded a little bit, yeah.
And does the orchestra get tired through this whole day of rehearsals?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I think so, but they were so supportive yesterday, and they're an amazing. They did an amazing job yesterday. Yeah.
Now, it's always interested me whenever I sit and talk with conductors to go over scores with them, because conductors see totally different things and hear music in a different way than a solo pianist does. If there was one thing you wish every pianist knew about the score at the first rehearsal, what would it be?
Instrumentation, I think. Because when the soloist, like generally soloist, when the instrumentation in the form
Yes.
picture of a piece, because when the pianists know, or well, we're talking about pianists, but of course it applies to every other soloist. When the soloist knows who's playing, who will play, who's playing, what kind of theme am I playing, and maybe the counterpoint is following the next bar. So it always helps to get the right balance, and the right balance not only in terms of dynamics but also in terms of leading the phrase and like depicting something. Yeah, in that sense.
If I go into a concerto performance and I know the instrumentation, I might actually look not at the conductor every time, but at the instrument that I'm trying to work with.
And you know who you should have listened to.
Right, exactly. And if I can look, especially playing with chamber music or chamber orchestras, because it's such a small group, you can potentially make eye contact in a way that you can't in a large group. Is that something that makes you comfortable if you know the soloist knows how to make their...
Very much.
Right.
Very much. Because that's, of course, everybody looks and everybody relies on the conductor, that's true. But if you took a look at the very great orchestras, it's not only about looking at the conductors.
Yes.
It's playing within the group. It's maybe looking at the concertmaster sometimes. It's listening to each other. And I'm just there, of course, I have to kind of put it all together.
Right.
But yeah, it helps a lot. It helps.
And the gesturing helps communicate something too, that
Yes.
you make eye contact or you show this phrase is very poised and I'm going to just sit quietly and play it. Or it's very emphatic and I'm going to move toward the piano. What about the pressure of this? It's a competition. The competitors are relying on you in the orchestra. Do you feel the pressure that you're carrying on your shoulders?
Yes, I do. Of course, yeah.
Is it a big pressure for you?
I think it's not as big as a concert pressure for me.
Because you're not being judged?
Maybe, yeah. Well, I am always judged, I think, unfortunately.
Conductors are always, actually.
Exactly. But, the pressure is there. But it also might be a pressure I put on myself, by myself.
For the quality?
Yeah, for the quality and for... Because, we have 10 different soloists, and I like them and respect them all equally.
You're right.
So we are starting at 4:30, and the last performance at 7:30 from my side has to be as good as the first one.
Whereas the competitor comes on, plays, and they're done.
Yeah.
But then you have to, until the fifth is done, you are not done.
And we always, with the orchestra, we always have to find this way to make it a fresh one, a new one.
Yeah.
To not to lose the joy of that, and just to be with them all the time. And okay, we played the same concerto for the 5th time. Okay, but it's going to be another beautiful one, maybe a different tempo. So okay, let's try to find something new in that. So that's the pressure that
But in the moment when you're on stage doing this, probably the music itself gives you some way of connecting.
Yes.
Yeah, and creating
it
this.
helps automatically, and very subconsciously.
So you're probably excited to go on stage. I know you have to go on stage in the next hour, right? So we have to finish soon so you can get ready for the concerts. I just wanted to point out the video we saw of you at the beginning was a video that helped your career in a big way with this Beethoven. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was actually the first video I made just before taking up the position of the principal guest conductor at the Pomeranian Philharmonic. That was the Beethoven Second Symphony, and it was the first big video of me and the orchestra during the pandemic. Because and it was. I think the result was quite okay. It wasn't
What
bad.
was the result?
The result was that a lot of people got to know about me. So, and some people contacted me. So it was, it put my conducting career, it gave a little bit of a kick to my conducting career.
And now, of course, you're managed by Harrison Perot.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Parrot, I should
Parrot,
say.
yeah, Harrison Parrot. Yeah,
Yes.
I've been managed for them for the past year and a half.
Congratulations.
Thank you, which is a big, that's a big time for me.
It's another topic we're going to have just toward the end of the competition, how agents, management, and so on can help careers.
Yeah.
Has this helped your career?
Yes, it has.
Yeah, that's great.
It has been helping my career a lot in a very good way. I'm really lucky to have a great team of managers that are really responsible for my future in the way of looking for very for the engagements I'm ready to take up now.
Wow.
And to just build it kind of very logically, slowly, but in a good way, so that it has very stable fundaments.
So we're very lucky to have you here. I've read in your bio that you're described by critics as a hope for young Polish conducting. There's a lot of great reviews of your work, and these competitors here are very lucky to get to work with you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm looking forward to conducting the semifinals today and tomorrow.
Yeah, and we're starting very shortly, aren't we? It's in the next hour. Exactly. Thank you very much for giving us this interview when you're so busy. And thank all of you for joining us. It's been great to have you here at the competition studio. The semifinals are starting in the next hour. You can see them live on Paderewski competition YouTube streaming and on Facebook and on Amadeus TV. I'm Jared Dunn, and this has been the competition studio with conductor Paweł Kapuła. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
The 12th International Paderewski Piano Competition in Bydgoszcz. Live broadcast at www.paderewskicompetition.pl.
Są takie chwile w życiu, które zostają w pamięci. Gdy dźwięki otaczają nas z każdej strony, muzyka przytula.
Too far gone to stay, said it anyway. Now these words forever free.
Najważniejsze, by ten czas spędzać z kimś, kogo kochamy, lubimy, szanujemy, w miejscu, które jest dla nas czymś ważnym, do którego zawsze chcemy wracać.
I hold on to you. Do you hold on to me? Try to give a little love to you, just enough to see us through. Now you're lost and broken. Though the world keeps spinning round, I keep one foot on the ground. Now you're lost and broken.
Filharmonia Pomorska. Daj się przytulić muzyce.
Możesz budować formy na siłowni i grać niesamowite solówki. Możesz oddać się pasji gotowania i miksować ścieżki. Możesz pielęgnować swoje rośliny i dyrygować chórem. Możesz uwieczniać piękne momenty i występować na wielkich scenach. W Akademii Muzycznej w Bydgoszczy stawiamy na Twoją swobodę i rozwój, dlatego dołącz do nas i poczuj, że naprawdę możesz.
Bydgoszcz, the capital and the largest city of the Kujawian Pomeranian region. It is a city of two rivers, the Vistula, the Duda, and the historic Bydgoszcz Canal. Picturesquely located between forests, it was associated with water from the very beginning. Water is one of the city's elements, and the old granaries standing by the Duda River tell about its past and the identity of its inhabitants. A remarkable object on the map of Bydgoszcz is the 18th century Bydgoszcz Canal. It contributed to a rapid development of trade and industry, and it associated its residents with the traditions of the skippers and inland navigation forever. The canal, along with the Vistula and Duda River, is a part of the international E17 waterway connecting Western Europe with the historic Królewiec. The revitalized Roder's Mills on the Mill Island have become a place of cultural gatherings and concerts. The Mill Island itself is a vibrant heart of the city that offers world-class entertainment, not only in opera nova, but also in a picturesque natural setting on the stage built on the Duda embankment. The city can be explored by boats or by a solar boat. From the water level, we can see even more clearly how the past connects with the present and modernity. The living museum created on the renovated Lemara barge tells about the traditions of skippers. From the marina of Bydgoszcz, we can set out in a canoe on a river journey around the city. The monuments of hydraulic engineering can be visited from the picturesque bicycle paths. And in the evening, you can rest in one of the multiple restaurants located by the Młynówka River. Come, see, feel it.
Dzień za dniem, noc za nocą. Nasze życie upływa pod bezkresnym niebem. Marzymy o rzeczach wielkich, ale życzymy sobie rzeczy prostych. Myślami wybiegamy do przodu, ale jesteśmy świadomi, że życie toczy się tu i teraz. Spoglądamy w niebo z dobrego miejsca na ziemi.
時間と手間をかけ工芸品のように作られる茂河合グランドピアノ。フラッグシップとして成長した茂河合グランドピアノは変わらぬ情熱と魂によってさらなる高みを目指します。